Hello and welcome to Arnie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Phantom Fairground. Holly Arnold had always been drawn to the strange and unusual, but nothing had prepared her for the legend of the Phantom Fairground. Nestled in the heart of the Isle of Wight, the tale was whispered among locals and passed down through generations, a mysterious fairground that appeared under the cover of darkness, its gaudy light shimmering against the darkened sky. It was said to bring thrills to the unsuspecting and death to the unlucky. It began as whispers on the autumn wind. Holly, an aspiring journalist with a knack for uncovering the bizarre, overheard snippets of conversation at the local pub. Saw the lights last night just over Breakstone Forest. But it's not natural, those who go. Her curiosity piqued, Holly decided she'd investigate. Armed with her camera, a flashlight, and a healthy dose of skepticism, she drove to Breakstone Forest that evening. The woods were a dense labyrinth of gnarled branches and whispering leaves, but as the clock ticked toward midnight, a faint glow appeared on the horizon. She followed the light, her heart pounding with both excitement and trepidation. As she stepped into a clearing, the sight stole her breath. A fully operational fairground sprawled before her, its vibrant colors garish against the moonlit sky. The fairground seemed alive, its rides spinning and stalls bustling despite the absence of visitors. A calliope wheezed an eerie, off-kilter tune, and the air was thick with the scent of fried dough and burnt sugar. Holly hesitated, but was soon greeted by a grinning man in a crimson jacket. "Welcome to the Phantom Fairground," he crooned. Before she could respond, he vanished into the shadows. Determined to uncover the truth, Holly ventured further. The rides, though enticing, emanated an ominous aura. A carousel turned without riders, its painted horses seeming to snarl as they rose and fell. The Ferris wheel creaked in the still air, its gondolas swaying as if inviting her aboard. Drawn to a nearby shooting gallery, Holly picked up her rifle, curious to test the game. The targets, grinning clowns with hollow eyes, seemed to move of their own accord, their faces twisting into grotesque sneers. Her first shot struck true, and for a moment she felt a rush of triumph. But the sound of laughter, low and menacing, echoed around her. A shrill scream broke the silence. Holly spun toward the source, her flashlight slicing through the shadows. A young man stumbled out of the house of mirrors, his face pale and twisted in terror. "They're alive," he gasped. "The mirrors, they'll take you." Curiosity overwhelmed caution. The air was thick and cold, her breath fogging the distorted glass walls. Her reflection followed her every move, but it wasn't quite right. Its smile was too wide, its eyes too sharp. When she turned a corner, the reflection stayed still. Her pulse quickened as the reflection stepped out of the glass, its movements jerky yet deliberate. It was her, but wrong. Before she could scream, it lunged, and Holly barely escaped by smashing through a mirrored panel. Outside, the fairground seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. The rides groaned, the calliope's tune became discordant, and shadowy figures began to emerge, their shapes flickering like old film projections. Holly realized the truth. This place wasn't just haunted, it was alive, feeding on the souls of those who dared to enter. Desperate to escape, Holly ran toward the exit, only to find the grinning man in the crimson jacket blocking her path. "But you can't leave yet," he said. She fought to resist as ghostly hands dragged her toward the Ferris wheel. Bound by unseen forces, she was forced into a gondola that rose higher and higher. As the wheel turned, she could see flashes of others trapped below, victims of the Phantom Fairground. The wheel stopped abruptly, leaving her suspended at the top. Below, the fairground shimmered, its colors bleeding into darkness. The grinning man appeared again, this time atop the ride, balancing effortlessly on the metal frame. "Welcome to eternity," he said. The gondola lurched, and Holly screamed as it plummeted. When she awoke, the fairground was gone. She was lying in the middle of the forest, her camera smashed and her clothes torn. She stumbled back to town, her story dismissed as a nightmare. But she knew better. Each night, she heard the faint melody of the calliope drifting through her window, a haunting reminder of the Phantom Fairground and the price of survival. Holly's life began to spiral after that fateful night. The tune of the calliope haunted her dreams, growing louder and more insistent with each passing evening. Shadows flickered in her peripheral vision, and she felt the fairground's presence even in the daylight. Her friends and colleagues noticed the change, but every time she tried to explain, they dismissed her as exhausted or overworked. The nightmares worsened. Each night, Holly found herself back at the fairground, trapped in a new, increasingly twisted attraction. The House of Mirrors became a labyrinth of living glass that whispered her deepest fears. The carousel's horses came alive, their teeth snapping as they chased her in endless circles. She knew she couldn't keep running. The fairground wanted her back. One particularly dark night, Holly decided to confront it. She returned to Brixton Forest, armed with only a flashlight and a notepad. She had no illusions about escaping unscathed, but she needed answers. As she ventured into the woods, the air grew colder, and the familiar glow of the fairground lights appeared ahead. This time the fairground was different. The rides were in disrepair, their colors faded and rusted. The calliope's tune was slower, more mournful. It felt as if the place itself was decaying, its energy waning. The grinning man appeared again, but his once perfect crimson jacket was tattered, his smile strained. "You came back," he said. "You're brave. You're foolish?" Holly demanded, her voice trembling. The man hesitated, his grin faltering. "This is a prison," he admitted. "A place where souls are trapped, feeding the fairground's power. It's dying now." Holly backed away. "I won't do it. You already are," he said softly. "At the moment you escaped, you left a part of yourself behind. The fairground won't let you go." Not fully. Holly turned and ran, but the fairground shifted around her. The rides groaned as if in protest, their skeletal structures creaking in the cold wind. She found herself back at the Ferris wheel, its rusted gondola swaying menacingly. A voice echoed through the air, hers. It came from the top of the wheel, where her reflection, the doppelganger she had seen in the House of Mirrors, sat in a gondola, grinning down at her. "Yet you can't escape yourself." Holly screamed, but her voice was drowned out by the calliope's cacophony. The ground beneath her feet crumbled, and she fell into darkness. She awoke in her bed, drenched in sweat. The fairground was gone, but the calliope's tune lingered faintly in the distance. Holly tried to move on, but strange occurrences followed her. Lights flickered when she entered a room. People around her grew uneasy, their eyes darting to shadows only she could see. Months passed, and the nightmares became her reality. The fairground would appear in fleeting moments, a flicker in a shop window, the distant sound of laughter on an empty street. She began to see others like her, marked by the fairground. They wore haunted expressions, their movements stiff as if they were puppets on invisible strings. One day Holly found a flyer pinned to her door. It was old, yellowed with age, but the message was clear: the Phantom Fairground, one night only, don't miss the show. Her hands trembled as she read the final line, featuring Holly Arnold, the main attraction. Holly knew she couldn't run any longer. That night she returned to Brixton Forest for the last time. The fairground greeted her with a sickly glow, its rides groaning to life. The grinning man was waiting, his crimson jacket restored to its former glory. "You're ready now." This time Holly didn't resist as the fairground claimed her. She became part of its twisted world, her reflection merging with her form. She wandered the attractions, her face appearing in mirrors and shadows, her laughter joining the eerie melody of the calliope. The Phantom Fairground still appears on the Isle of Wight, but now it has a new star. Visitors report seeing a woman with piercing eyes and a haunting smile. She beckons them to join the fun, her voice carrying an irresistible allure. And those who follow her never leave. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like, and even better, like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.